Hey guys, welcome back to the Royal Daily News. This is part 2 of debunking the Harry and Meghan interview that was on Oprah Winfrey. So today we're going to talk about when Meghan was talking about she didn't feel protected by the royal family. And what she is actually talking about is not physical security, guys. It was actually the press. Meghan was upset that when she got engaged to Harry, a lot of her past came out to kind of bite her in the butt. She had a lot of ex-friends, people who had worked with her on different sets, her family members. They were all coming forward and telling people, Meghan's not a good person, watch out for her. She's a diva. We've been markled was a new phrase that people were calling her because she tended to dump friends and go through people as soon as she didn't need them anymore. And as soon as she got on Suits and kind of got a little bit of fame and a little bit of money, she no longer needed people. She cut out 90% of her family, cut out all of her friends that were a part of her group. She was married before to producer Trevor Ingleson. While she was married to him, he is one of the people, I believe, that helped get her on Suits. He was a very, rich and successful movie producer. So she was with him for about 10 years. They got married. And then she got on Suits and she flew out to Canada. They had a long distance, marriage. And a lot of people said she blindsided him one day. She mailed him his wedding rings and divorce papers and said, I want a divorce. He had no clue that she wanted a divorce because he was traveling to Canada every weekend to be with her. So a lot of her friends that were at her wedding and were a part of her life for many years were kind of calling her out like, hey, Meghan, what's going on? She ghosted everyone. We're talking multiple people were just completely, for no reason, cut out of her life. And everyone was like, we've been with you for years while you were trying to get it, be an actress. And now that you have a little bit of fame, we're just, discarded, including your husband who basically helped build your career. So a lot of people in her past aren't very happy with her. And this also includes her stepsister, Samantha Markle. And I know a lot of people don't like her. She has come out with a new book about Meghan Markle. But she went on talk shows and she called Meghan out. She let everyone know, look, she is an opportunist. She is a liar. She's a manipulator. She goes through people. And she will discard you the minute she doesn't need you. Okay, and a lot of people gave her a lot of crap, but the ironic thing is she actually was 100% correct. If you look at what Meghan has done, her sister was warning people, hey, you may not want to get this woman into the royal family. She's going to ruin the royal family. She's drama. You might want to rethink this. She was warning everyone, and everyone was like, oh my God, you're a racist. You're a Karen. You're just jealous of Meghan. You just want her money. And I have to admit, in the beginning, I really liked Meghan. And I was like, oh my God, her sister's horrible. Her father's horrible. How embarrassing. But, people don't do stuff like this unless there's an actual reason. Where there's smoke, there's fire. So too many people had come forward and said the same kind of story about Meghan. So when Meghan was talking about, I don't feel safe, I'm not protected, she really thought that the royal family was just going to go to the press and say, okay, make all these stories go away. But that's not how it works, because the royal family, they have a history of just saying, hey, we're just going to, say no comment and have a stiff upper lip and we're going to deal with it. Everyone in the royal family has been through the tabloids. That's just part of life. Well, Meghan, being the control freak and wanting to control her narrative, did not like that. Okay, so she was pissed that the royal family wasn't squashing all of these negative stories. So her and Harry started suing the tabloids. Every 5 minutes, they were suing another tabloid. Then they decided we're not going to talk to anyone in the press unless it's the people we want to talk to, and it only can be positive stories about us. So now Harry and Meghan, remember that they wanted to have this, no one could talk on social media. We want to control everyone's narrative, and only the press can say nice things about us. And if they don't say nice things, then we're either going to sue them or we're just not going to talk to them. Well, that's just not how it works, okay? So they're the sue happy couple. They sue everyone. So what they did, which they denied that they were a part of this, but they were actually proven to have lied. And we'll get into this in another video. But that one book that they were, quote unquote, not a part of, that's a biography about Meghan called Finding Freedom, was basically a huge fluff piece, made, Meghan look like Mother Teresa and how perfect she was. It was so bad. It basically went to the clearance bin. People, slammed the book. And Omid Scooby had said he had gotten some help from them. But in actuality, a lot of people think Meghan actually helped him write the book. And it kind of fits that narrative that you have this control freak, egomaniac person who wants to control the press. She's not allowed to say anything, so she starts suing people, and then all of a sudden this book comes out that makes her look like a perfect little Snow White princess, who does the perfect pose in the desert. She's just Queen Bee, she's Mother Teresa incarnate. It's so ridiculous that during her lawsuit, the latest one, where she basically won, I don't know how she won, with the letters to her dad, it came out that yes, she was in fact involved in the writing of the book. Okay? So again, they lied about that and they got found out. So Meghan was upset that she wasn't able to control the narrative of herself in the press. So she hired her, quote unquote, the Hollywood Five, her little friends, to go out and start saying positive things to her in the press. And again, she denies having any dealings with that, but I think we all know Meghan put her friends up to that, right? We all know how she is at this point. So that's one of the false things that they were talking about, was Meghan was more concerned about her press image than she was about physical security. I think they just kind of used that at the end to make them look good, but it was really about the press, okay? She really, really didn't like the way that people were basically busting her, and she was trying to squash the rumors, and unfortunately, for her, the palace, wasn't going to do that. The second thing she talked about was after she got married, she was a prisoner in her own home. She didn't leave for 4 months. She was very depressed and quote unquote suicidal. Now, I don't play with that. If somebody has a mental problem, I take that very seriously. It's not something you should throw around lightly. But here's the problem I have with her story. Meghan, during her, 16 months of being a married royal, she was only in the royal family for about 16 months until they left in January 2020. During that time, she traveled to 13 foreign countries, and most of those trips were on vacations and for personal pleasure. They really weren't that many for royal duty. So to come on here and say that, you were a prisoner, you barely left your house for 4 months. She also said they took her passport and her license, and she, felt like she was trapped. Well, let me just show you a couple of the trips that Markle and Harry went on during their 1.5 years of marriage in the royal family. So in August of 2018, they went to Canada to visit her best friend, Jessica Mulroney. They also went to France. In August of 2018, they went to France and rode on a private jet from Elton John and did, attend a party. And they also went to Spain in August of 2018 on a private jet to Ibiza to celebrate her 38th birthday. They went to Jamaica in 2017, attended the wedding of Harry's friend. They went to the United States, New York, in February of 2019 for Meghan's New York baby shower. In September of 2019, she went to the U.S. Open. They went to Italy and visited the Clooneys in 2018 and 2019. They went to the Netherlands in 2018 and attended the Soho House launch party. They went to Norway in January of 2017 to see the Northern Lights. Now, she was only married as a royal from May 2018 until January of 2020. So you're trying to tell me in that period of time, those amount of trips, she was trapped for 4 months and only left her house for 1 day, didn't have a passport or a license, and she was so depressed because she couldn't go to lunch with her friends. This woman went on quite a few vacations, not to mention before she gave birth to Archie, she was swept away to a luxurious spa for a baby moon. And she also had a honeymoon after she got married in May of 2018. This woman has had quite a few trips and outings, more than the average person, yet she's crying that she stayed home for 4 months and didn't have any friends and didn't leave her house. I mean, was that her maternity leave that she was home for 4 months? Like, she also was pregnant during that time too, so it's just very weird how she cried, how she was very depressed, a prisoner, felt trapped, didn't have her passport. Now, all members of the royal family have their own passport, except for the Queen. They all have their own passport. Many of these trips that Meghan went to, she actually went to by herself. She went to New York and the U.S. Open by herself. So she would have had to have a passport, guys. So it's kind of not true what she was saying. She's had plenty of social trips. I think she's had more trips than most of us have had in the past year and a half, right? This woman has lived a life of leisure. I don't think, living in a mansion and going on all these trips on private jets, crying because you couldn't leave your house for 4 months. She was probably on maternity leave, guys, and maybe just gave birth, okay? That might have been the period she was talking about, but I just think it's a little funny how she talks about that part. Now, the part about the mental health, guys, she said that she was suicidal at one point because she was so depressed, and that she went to the palace HR department and she tried to get help and they denied her. Now, I really, really do not believe her, and this is why. Prince Harry has been on record talking about how he extensively went to therapy after the death of his mother, Princess Diana. He was urged by his brother, Prince William, to seek help. Meghan is claiming that at some point during that 18 months, she went to the HR department of the palace. She said, "I'm suicidal, I need to be sent somewhere," and that the palace supposedly told her, "Gosh, Meghan, we're really sorry, but no, you can't get help because it doesn't look good for the royal family." That's a very big claim to make. Now, Princess Diana also received extensive counseling while she was married to Charles. Prince Harry has received counseling. Princess Margaret has received counseling. Another point of contention here is when Meghan was pregnant with Archie, she refused to have the royal doctors, do the birthing for her. The Queen has their normal staff. But Meghan insisted on having an all-female private team for the birth of her son Archie. So here she has access to a very expensive and, very private medical staff, but yet she can't get mental health anywhere. Why is that? Why did she choose to deliver at a different hospital versus the one that all the other royal families had birthed their children? So she denied the Queen's royal staff of doctors, which are some of the best in the world. She also chose a different hospital, and she chose her own medical staff. So you're trying to tell me she has access to all of that. Not to mention, she was on the board of a charity, Heads Together, with Kate Middleton, Prince William, and Harry, that talked about mental health. But she couldn't find help when she was feeling suicidal. I just don't believe that, guys. This woman's mother, Doria, was also a licensed therapist and worked in the mental health field. So not only was her mother in the mental health field, she was on a board where it was for mental health awareness. Her husband had a counselor. Her, late grandmother had a counselor. She had access to a huge plethora of highly expensive private doctors, but yet she went to the HR department of the palace to get help. Does this look like a woman who's going to go to the HR department of the palace when she snubbed the royal doctors and she snubbed the actual, hospital where normal people in the royal family would give birth to their children? She had her own hospital she went to. I find it hard to believe that with all her access to all those professionals, no one could give her a phone number where they could just talk on the phone or do a Zoom call. You didn't have to even go in person. So I don't believe that the palace would have said no. I don't think she actually ever went to HR. I think she just made that up. Because let's think about it. She needs sympathy. Okay? How is she going to get sympathy? By saying, well, they didn't give me what I wanted? Anyone could say, yeah, I was suicidal and I had thoughts. Well, there's nothing on record, so we have to take what she says as truth. But she's kind of throwing the palace under the bus. So I have a lot of disbelief about that story. Now, was she depressed? Was she really suicidal? Nobody really is going to know except for Harry and Meghan, right? They're the people who are actually going to know. But there's just too many inconsistencies in the way that she works and the access to health professionals that she has and the way that she snubbed the doctors for giving birth, but yet she can't find someone to call for mental health. There was just too many people and she had too much access. I'm sure her husband could have said, hey, call my therapist. You know what I mean? So I don't believe the suicidal story. I believe she made that up. I'm sorry. I don't believe it. And she doesn't look like someone who goes to HR. She's the type of person who believes she's above the rules. Nothing applies to her. So she's not going to listen to them. I mean, she didn't even take the royal doctors. She didn't even, go on the steps of the hospital and have photos of Archie. Remember how everyone followed royal tradition and she was the only person who decided not to follow royal tradition? Does she look like someone who's going to go to HR and take whatever therapist they recommend? No, Miss Markle likes to do everything according to her. She doesn't care about rules. She doesn't, care about traditions or protocol. It's whatever Meghan wants to do. So that story about her being suicidal or being trapped in her home without a passport, and she was so depressed that she was considering killing herself because she couldn't go out to lunch with her friends, literally what she said, and the 13 trips that she made in less than 2 years, it's a hogwash. If anyone thinks that this woman is telling the truth, I got a bridge for you to an oceanfront property in Arizona. I really do. Okay, so, and then there's the other part about her father. Before the wedding, her father had made a mistake. I'm not saying what he did was right, but he sold a story, to the press for him pretending to get, ready to go to the royal wedding. And he was all excited and they were measuring his suit and they took photos of him in his house in Mexico. Well, of course, that was a huge, huge scandal. And that's what caused a huge fight between Meghan and her father, right? Well, she could have forgiven her father at any time, but she chose not to. She chose not to. And so instead of having her own father, who has been by her side her entire life, paid for her college, supported her, given her a life of privilege. She now has the King of England. The future King of England is now walking her down the aisle. It's almost like her father wasn't good enough. So she used the quote-unquote falling out that she had with her father to say, you know what, Dad, F you. You're not good enough for me. I'm not going to talk to you anymore. Thanks for getting me here to the palace, but, kiss off. And now she has Charles walking her down the aisle. I don't think that was an accident, guys. I feel like this was a very elaborate plan by Miss Markle. She elevated herself and her status. If your dad did something to you and you had a fight, the guy almost had a heart attack and died due to the stress, but this woman couldn't forgive him and let him be a part of her wedding? Don't you think that's a little harsh that still 3 years later she's still not talking to her dad? You know what I mean? The guy did everything for this girl. And so now she's completely cut off her dad, her sister, her whole entire extended family. The only person who made the cut is her mom, Doria. And here's the ironic thing about Doria. Doria did not raise Meghan. Doria was basically a free spirit. She had been in and out of prison. And Meghan even said that she wasn't really a mother figure. She was more like a friend. She didn't really raise her. Her father is the one who raised her. But her father now, look how he's been treated. So this is her mother. She's a beautiful lady, but she did not raise Meghan. She got her like on the weekends, maybe, and considered her a friend, not even a mother. Her mother is a free spirit. wasn't really around for her childhood. But, she gets to go to the wedding, she gets praised, and her father and the rest of the family, they're out in the cold. I really believe, and this is going to be controversial, that she chose her mother because she was black to be with her in the royal family, to make a statement. Because Meghan has always played the part of the white girl. She was in college, she went to a white sorority, she was raised by a white father, was mostly around her white family, went to a school with rich white kids, married a white man before Harry. She was very much in the white community. The minute she gets with Harry, all of a sudden she's about the black community. I'm a woman of color. They had this big black choir singing at the wedding. It was like they were playing up the race card. It's like she decided, I'm going to be the princess of color. And that's the narrative I'm going to go to the public with now. Now, I'm not saying if you're biracial, you shouldn't play up your color. If that's who you are, then be who you are. But the fact that it was never about race with her before, she never talked about being a person of color before, she didn't really identify as a person of color before, and all of a sudden now she has her black mom at the wedding and she's got the black choir and they're talking about how she's the greatest asset to the royal family and they're not using her. Okay, that's actually what they said, that she's the greatest asset to the royal family and they didn't use her. That is because Meghan doesn't want to be second fiddle and she was very, very jealous of Kate. That's a whole other topic, but Meghan did not like being second place. She wanted to be Queen Bee. And the fact that she wasn't elevated to the status that she wanted, the palace wasn't squashing the negative stories, she wasn't getting her way with having, things behind the scenes done the way she wanted it because she wanted to reinvent and modernize the royal family. And when she found out very quickly that no, that's not going to happen, you have to play by the rules. We told you before you came on board, there are protocols, and if you want this life, you got to follow the rules. Well, that Meghan didn't like that. So Meghan came out with a way to basically get the title, get the wedding, and then she wanted to peace out and sell out to Hollywood. And that is exactly what she did. These two are royal sellouts. They will only do charity if they get paid to show up for an event. And that's a whole other video. But basically, everything that she said about being a prisoner in her home for 4 months, to being suicidal, to not being able to get help, to not being protected by the palace, by not leaving her house for 4 months when she clearly took 13 trips, guys, and vacations. Again, there are so many lies in this interview, and to me, Oprah really did not interview them. It was a one-sided tell-all. This was not an interview. This was a biased, one-sided tell-all. Because everyone knows the royal family cannot just clap back. They can't sit down with Oprah and be like, let me tell you the truth. The royal family has to have a stiff upper lip. They have to do everything by protocol. So it's easy to take cheap pot shots at the royal family because you can't seek revenge against you the way that normal people would be able to do so. So it's really easy for them to get on TV and play the victim card because they know the royal family can't call them out, right? So this was not an interview. This was a bombshell, one-sided revenge interview. And I feel like, unfortunately for them, and unfortunately for Harry, he kind of put a final nail in the coffin with his relationship with his family for this woman. And that's another video we're going to get into. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video debunking the lies and myths of Harry and Meghan, part 2. Stay tuned, guys. I'm going to be launching a whole new series. So stay tuned for that, guys. As always, I appreciate you and thank you for stopping by.